This is Radio Reinvented. The biggest radio station in the entire city. 106.3. Always refreshing. Every day, all the time, 24/7. You're listening to Lead Radio, your lifestyle radio.
All right, it's a beautiful Monday morning right here in the studio of your number one urban lifestyle radio in the city, Lead Radio 106.3. And yes, it is still the Alpha Show with Islamia. And this is a Monday morning, and you know how Mondays can get. Everybody's trying to get their hustle going. There's that seriousness that is going around, and we're going to be tapping into it right here on the Alpha Show. My name is Yazan E for Energy. My name is Yazan Islamia, and I welcome you to this segment of the show. And yes, this is the Business Monday on the Alpha Show with Islamia. And of course, just like the name implies, from time to time, we have, tips for you to make your business better. Some things that you need to know about your business, some things that you need to know about business generally to make it better. And of course, from time to time, we have experienced people come in the studio to share, and then we drink from their well of knowledge. And today's another day for us to do that. If you remember, since the month of March started, we have been doing like a, women-based series on the Business Monday because it's the Women History Month. So yes, it's justified. And today's another day for us to do that. And today I have a very beautiful woman right here in the studio. She's an award-winning woman. She is an award-winning finance management consultant with over 19 years of experience in the finance and human resources management industries. She also has a PhD in personal psychology, and also she's a member of several professional institutes. So you see, she's not a small person at all. She's not a small person. We have Ambassador Dr. Lola Odeyale. Good morning.
Good morning, and I'm so very, very happy to be here this morning.
We're happy to have you here.
Thank
You're
you so
shining,
much.
you're glowing. We'll talk about your secret later.
Okay.
But let's get into what we have today. So today we're going to be talking about finance. That's what we're going to be doing. A lot of people get into business because they want to make money. A lot of people are going to work because they want to make. Everybody wants to make money one way or the other. But then you can make the money. But then how do you manage that money that you're making? It is very important. So we're going to be talking about budgeting for household women and in small scale businesses as well. You that are selling something, how do you manage the money that you get from the profits that you get from whatever it is, whatever service you are preferring to people? So let's just get straight into it. Let's understand, why is it so important for women to have financial independence? I can just marry a rich man. My daddy has money, I can just spend my daddy's money. So why exactly is it so important for women to attain financial independence?
Wow. Well, thank you so much for having me. And like you said, why is it important for women to have financial independence? What exactly is financial independence? It's actually the ability to be able to take care of your expenses, with your level of income. And we all know that expenses will always come, and we have our own needs as women. Now, that you marry a wealthy man or that you have a wealthy parents does not mean that you should not, as a woman, be financially independent. Several things warrant that we should be financially independent. There are some little needs that you don't have to depend on husband or parents for, things like sanitaries. You want to buy a box of match, then you wait for daddy to come and give you. Women, we are helpmeets for our husbands. So when you say somebody is a helpmeet, that means you are helping, in times where there are little lapses here and there. So it's very important that women should be financially independent. Now, aside the fact that we are helpmeets, what of scenarios that we have eventualities which we don't, foresee? Anything could happen. The man could have issues with his own source of income. Then what happens to the entire family? That means the family will be grounded because you are not financially independent. Aside loss of job, it could even be an extreme, which we don't, but these things do happen. So it's important that women should be financially independent to be able to, help when there are situations. Also to be able to be confident in themselves, because we have a lot of people that, because they're not financially independent, they take all kinds of trash, and I feel that women should, so that they can also help, when there are times of eventualities. The man is also, not able to bring so much. And even now, the economy, the 1 naira of today is not the 1 naira of yesterday. So it means that if one person could shoulder the responsibility of the family before, which of course, even before, we still recommend that women should also have, how much now that things are so expensive? So I would say that for so many reasons, women need to be financially independent.
Okay, so we've talked about how it's important, and you mentioned the economy as well, which is also something that makes it quite difficult. I mean, everybody is kind of struggling, and if you meet people about 2 or 3 jobs, some people are holding about 2 or 3 jobs just to try to make ends meet, because as they're trying to make the end is just running away from you. It's just like you refuse to meet. You're dragging the end, is dragging you, know, all those kind of things. So how can women achieve this financial independence in the face of the economy? Because if we look at it, things are really hard for everybody. Like, you go to work, the money that you get, I mean, you try as much as possible, but still it's not coming together. So how do you know? I mean, you cannot steal now. Even people that are stealing, they will still buy the same price that we're buying in the market. So how can women attain this financial independence?
You see, I always say that it requires discipline. There's no one that achieves anything great that does not go through the process and does not live a disciplined life. Financial independence is achievable. It takes time, and it also takes a lot of discipline. There are financial habits that people have to embrace and live by. It's not always easy, but if we go through the process and we're disciplined, we can actually achieve it. You were talking about budgeting.
Yeah.
It's one of the habits that is key for achieving financial independence. There's so many habits. Budgeting, living within your means, not living on borrowed funds as much as possible. Even if you have to take loans, let it be calculated ones, not the ones that sink people, because you take loan here and there to sustain a lifestyle that is not real. There's this movie I watched some time ago, and it was just about somebody living a fake life just to impress people. And I tell people, who is looking at you? So people need to embrace financial habits and discipline to be able to attain, financial independence.
So talking about one of the habits that you mentioned, which is budgeting, a lot of people struggle with that, because you can budget for this today, and by the time you go to the market to say, I want to try this, even with your rent, with electricity, like everything, there's this increase that comes. So what are some practical budgeting strategies that you think works for everybody? Because I mean, people have always said it, that budgeting is good, but when you do it this month and then you do it next month, and then everything is still not making sense, you just feel like, whoa, I beg, I'm not doing this anymore. So what are the practical ways in which somebody can budget, to manage maybe household expenses, or even for your small business, that you're like, okay, at least if I budget this amount of money, I can buy goods, and if I budget this amount of money, I can pay my staff. If I have any staff, I can also have like extra products just in case of anything, and all those kind of things.
Well, I will start by saying, what exactly is budgeting? I define it. My own definition is telling your money where to go rather than wondering where it went to. Now, people will say, yes, budgeting is know all your income and then know all your expenses and then putting it together. How do you spend your income? First and foremost, I would say that people need to know all their sources of income. They need to know how much they are earning or they will earn. And the next thing is, how much am I expending? I usually do that with the kids at home. Sometimes I'll say, let's do a rundown. How much do we spend each month? And the first time my son was wondering, why are you asking? I said, no, I needed you to understand, how much you're spending, because that is the way that will help you in budgeting. Now, if after you've written down all that you're going to spend money on, and you discover that what is coming in cannot sustain that, then you have to begin to look at how you can either earn more or adjust your expenses. So it's important that people understand their sources of income, how much is coming in, and also what do we spend money on. Also, it's important for you to be able to identify and differentiate between needs and wants. Now, food is a necessity, but we also know that we have junk food. So is junk food a necessity? Is it a need or a want? So in the time you need to budget, you need to write down, okay, these are all that I'm expecting. These are all the things I'm spending money on. And then break it down. And as you're breaking it down, you might even discover that, what I'm spending money on, I can get alternatives that will still give me what I need and still be less. For example, I tell people, I want to take milk. That's several milk. There's peak milk, there's 3 Crown, there's cowbell, so I want to take milk. Milk is a necessity for me, but the different brands have different prices. So, and I have to look at what I have vis-a-vis what I need and then decide, do I want to go for the extremely expensive one when I cannot afford it? Or I just stay in the middle that I know that I can take care of myself. Also, it's also important. A lot of people, most of the time, they do what we call zero budgeting. And what is that? Writing out everything they will spend money on, pursue their income. So I'm earning 100,000 and I spend the entire 100,000. Now, for cases where there are little differences, then they run into. So because now I've the whole 100,000, I've finished spending it. Oh, I'm going to use 10,000 for this, and then you're not leaving any allowance. So when you go to the market and you see that, oh, something has increased, what happens? So I always encourage people, especially times like this when prices are fluctuating, don't do zero budgeting. Leave room for, miscellaneous, for adjustments. And aside leaving room for, it is important to stick to your budget. Most of the time, another issue that affects people is that they don't stick to their budgets. Now, I want to buy milk. I've told myself, okay, I'm going to get milk that does not exceed this amount. And then when I get to the market, I'm like, oh, I love this. I want this. I want this. And then you get it. I talked about financial habits. One of it that also needs to be taken consideration of is avoiding impulse purchase. You just see something, you buy it. You see another thing, you buy it. Forgetting that you've already told yourself, this is how I want to spend my money. And I must say something here. No matter the expenses, I always tell people, no matter how much your income goes, your expenses will always rise to that level. So if you have a raise today, just check it. Naturally, you see that your expenses goes high. So that's why I talked about discipline. It's important that you discipline yourself. And when budgeting, I will say this again and again, make sure you pay yourself. Each time you budget, rent, you are paying the landlord. Food, you are paying the food seller. Shoe, you are paying the shoe seller. Education, you are paying the school that is providing it. What are you paying yourself? So in budgeting, no matter how much your expenses are, you must learn to pay yourself. Now, if you see that all your expenses are much more than your income, then you must begin to think of how you will increase your income or reduce your expenses.
But with this one, people will be like, but life is too short for all of this. Life is so short. It's not like you're cutting sapa when you say, oh, I will buy this one that is very creamy, but because I don't have enough money, I have to buy the one that is less because, all of that. So it's like it's forcing a whole lot of people to, downgrade and not really like enjoy. Even some people always have the same way they say that, even the quotes that you're cutting according to, there's no sign that material has finished. So it seems like you're not even able to cut anything at this point because no matter how much you still budget, there's still that problem. Okay, for example, as ladies now, we have sanitary needs, which every month, and some people have health issues as well that makes them maybe buy more sanitary needs or that make them buy drugs and everything. That no matter what, you don't budget for you to be sick. Like you know that, oh, I might fall sick, but it's not supposed to be there. But for example, in the cases where maybe they are battling maybe hormonal, illnesses, or even like it's an accident or whatever, and you know that health also is very expensive. It requires money. Or like in cases where you get something that is very unexpected, how do you even manage yourself in that way? Because you did not plan for this to happen, and it just happened. Sincerely,
I love what you just talked about now. The truth of the matter is, when I was talking about budgeting, I said make sure that you pay yourself.
Okay.
And that is what I call savings. However, I tell people that portion that you take aside for savings is meant to serve several purposes. One is emergency funds. I shout it, I scream it because emergencies would always happen. If somebody comes and says, it's not going to rain, so I don't need an umbrella, the person is just deceiving herself, because whether you like it or not, it will rain. But if I have an umbrella in my bag, kept, and it rains, what happens? I just open my umbrella and I'm safe from the rain. That is exactly what that portion of paying yourself can do for you in terms of emergency funds. The truth of the matter is you must keep an emergency fund because emergencies will happen. Now, we've talked about, health needs. We've talked about, the need to buy maybe more sanitaries. Yeah. If you have not put into consideration yourself, as in paying yourself, and from that portion that you pay, but I say even if you cannot afford that 10%, make sure that you keep a percentage. Because I know some people say, I'm collecting only 10,000. They're telling me I should keep 10%. And I tell them, these are the analogies I use. Let's assume that we are working on a concrete floor and I fall down on a bare concrete floor. And I'm also walking another floor that has maybe a rug. What's the impact? I'm going to feel more negative impact on the concrete floor than if I fell on. That is what savings does. So imagine if you have little cushion and there's an emergency or there's an incident that you didn't expect would come. The negative effect won't be as bad as if you didn't have a cushion. So that's what that paying yourself does. From that paying yourself, I also recommend that people split it into emergency funds, retirement, investments, or large purchases. But that discipline of taking aside something will have to be there. If it's not there, you will not be able to take care of emergencies. Now, I tell people, if you go to the hospital, for example, and doctor says, oh, this thing is going to cost 50,000 naira. And you tell the doctor, God is going to bless you. Please go ahead, I'm coming. The doctor is not likely to listen, or will say, okay, out of the fact that it is the ethics of my job to save life, let me go ahead. But if somebody comes and says, oh, it's 50,000, doctor, please, I don't have up to 50,000, but this is 25,000. Please go ahead. Please, what's going to happen? They will go ahead. That's what those, taking aside something does when you are able to keep something for yourself and say, okay, this is for emergency fund, because emergencies will always happen. It will always happen. You could have, aside, health needs, buying sanitary. What if something happens, you're not able to go to work or go to your shop for a month? Are you not going to leave? Look at what happened during COVID. I said COVID taught us that you need to make sure that you keep something aside for yourself and, of course, have an emergency fund account. COVID came and it looked like story, shut down. Everybody stay at home. Some people survived. Some people had it difficult because they didn't have cushion. They didn't have that safety net in terms of emergency. So I tell people, yes, there will be issues that will come, but make sure that you save something for yourself. And from that you're saving for yourself, keep an emergency fund account.
I know, as I say, some people are like, I'm trying, but I mean, imagine retirement, investment, savings, all this at once. But anyways, we're still on the Business Monday right here on the Alpha Show with Islamia, and we're talking about budgeting for household women and women in a small scale business. But for now, we'll take a breather, get back to a bit of the music, and then we'll come back to continue the conversation. So make sure to keep it locked.
This is Lead Radio LR 106.3.
What's that sound?
Ibadan City's best sound.